Okay, this is going to be good. I know you're going to like it because I really liked it. We're going to spend some time with a guy who set an audacious goal and he's making it happen. Believe it or not, you can actually set the goal of becoming a commercial airline pilot. Give yourself a time frame, give yourself a dollar value, and if you put the effort in and do it intelligently, you can do this much faster and much cheaper than you ever believed possible. But don't listen to me. Let's watch this episode and listen to Trent because this man knows what he's talking about. By the way, as long as you're here, do me a favor. Click the like button right down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It helps grow the channel, it provides you greater insight, and it lets us bring you more of this material absolutely free right on your personal device. This is very exciting for me because you're doing something that I enjoy. You all set to go?
I am indeed, and thank you for having me. It's a privilege for me to be here as well.
I love your attitude, Trent. We're here today with Trent Dyrsmid from flywithtrent.com. And I got to tell you, when I discovered this website, the YouTube channel, I just got to talk to this guy because he's right up my alley. He's exactly what I talk about and have been talking about for years. Trent, where did the idea come from that you were going to publicize your journey? I mean, right out there with YouTube channels and the website. Why did you take that route rather than just being all self-contained like most pilots and just do their thing?
Well, I've been a content creator outside of the aviation niche now for over a decade, with having produced the host of the Bread Ideas podcast, which was a business and marketing podcast for better than 650 or so episodes, I think, between that and my prior show. So plenty of experience on YouTube. So I did it as a curiosity. And so once I decided to make aviation my career 2.0, I did it mostly as a curiosity. Like, would this actually take off? Would people be interested in watching this? And much to my surprise and delight, there turned out to be a rabid audience of guys who are a little later in life like me, and they found a great deal of inspiration in my content, and my videos immediately took off, and and have just kind of kept on going ever since. So I feel very privileged to be in the position that I'm
That's what
in.
I love about it, to tell you the truth. I'm 64 and I'm way into this career. I got into this in my late 20s, but I meet people all the time that are in your exact position. Maybe they're successful, but sometimes they're in their 30s or 40s and saying, well, it's too late for me to become a pilot. And your story really proves it's not. You can be into your 50s and really start the journey there and be successful.
Yeah, that is exactly true. Thanks to really two major factors: COVID causing a lot of pilots to retire early, and then just demographics themselves and the shape of the baby boomers, how there's so many more baby boomers than the generation that follows, have put the airlines in a situation that they have never been in before. And the result of that, of course, is there's never been a better time to be a pilot, because those airlines, for the first time ever, have pretty much had to drop their requirement for a university or a college degree. And maybe more importantly, have had to significantly increase wages to attract enough people to start spending the money, which is quite a lot of money, to go through all of the flight training that would put them in a position to be eligible to be hired by one of those
You've
airlines.
done such a good job, and I really have to tip of the hat to you, where you've laid out not just your plan and the timeline, but also the costs and how you can limit costs. During that process, did you find any challenges that really you hadn't expected, or did it go pretty much the way you thought it would?
Candidly, it went exactly according to my
That's
plan.
awesome.
I had done my research beforehand. I had a mentor. I was following my mentor's guidance. He told me what to expect. I knew exactly what it would cost. The only pleasant surprise was I was able to finish it. I thought it might take me as long as 6 months, and so being able to finish in half of that time was especially gratifying. The only thing that was a surprise to me was how, when I published the first video that went viral, which was where I was talking about, this is my plan to do blah blah blah, just how roasted I got in the comments for people telling me that I was a nut job and that there was no way I could get all those ratings that quickly and for so little money.
Well, you're a great proponent of accelerated flight training, which those comments kind of illustrate. A lot of people think that's a scam, but your personal
Hmm.
experience and what you're doing now in your instructional experience, it pretty much proves that's not the case. But it does require dedication on the part of the student. Would you say that's true? Where a big part of your success is how prepared are you and how dedicated are you?
Oh, absolutely. So let's start with the phrase accelerated flight training. In plain speak, all that means is flying more often. That's it. Flying more often. The average person who is training on a part-time basis is doing maybe 1 to 2 flights per week. And as you might imagine, with anything that you're learning, if you're only doing it 1 to 2 times per week, it's going to take you quite a while to master whatever that particular skill is. But in my case, I put my entire life on hold. I left my home. I went out in my fifth wheel. And for the first month, my family was not with me because my daughter wasn't out of school yet. And all I did was fly, usually in the morning, and then a simulator session in the middle of the day, and another flight in the afternoon. And then I would come home and I would do ground school till 8 or 9 o'clock. Then I would go to bed. I would get up. I would do the next thing, the same thing the day after, and the day after, and the day after, and the day after. And the entire 91 days that I was working on flight school, there was a few days off for weather, of course. Well, actually, there was 3 weeks where we had thunderstorms rolling in. So for 3 weeks, I didn't get to fly, but I did do ground school. But I took just one day off where I didn't do anything, and that was a day when we were going to visit my wife's grandmother. So, I was pretty darn focused. I didn't have a social life during that period of time. I did get some exercise. Of course, took a mountain bike with me to ride around, but Ohio is pretty flat, so there was not a lot of hills to climb. But I made flying, or the education of flying or flight training, my entire world. And so that's why it was quote unquote accelerated, was because I was doing it every day. And so if you're doing something every day, the amount of information that you forget between training sessions gets to be pretty minimal because you're doing it
I
every
had a
day.
very similar circumstance back in the late 80s, early 90s, where I went to what I refer to as big time flight school. And yeah, you flew every day, you did ground school every day. There was something constantly going on, and you just make it your whole life. And like you, I didn't take my wife with me. I just did it, and it made all the difference.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this though. You did your flight training in Ohio, I understand. You're in Idaho now. I'm in Central Florida, the flight training capital of the world. Do you think geography is important, or do you think the drive to succeed is more important? The understanding of what's the process like, having the finances in place, and just going for it? Or do you think you have to be someplace specific?
Well, I think mostly it's going for it, but you can't be ignorant of the climate that you live in. You can say, like in my case, I was in an area where there was a lot of thunderstorms. So that's why we had these 3 weeks where I literally couldn't get off the ground. So if you live in an area where you're just not going to be able to fly, I don't really care how motivated you are, you're not going to go very fast. So you need to set yourself up for success no matter what you're doing in life, and you need to stack the odds in your favor. So that means, especially as we're recording this in September, as people are heading into the winter, if I was going to be doing it again, right, starting now, I would not pick the school that I went to, because the weather I know would be counterproductive for what I was trying to achieve. So I would pick someplace with sunnier. Um, and again, going back to the whole attitude thing, I think I don't want to glaze over that, because I think that there are, in the YouTube comments, there are a lot of, like every other place, there's aviation armchair quarterbacks who have all sorts of opinions about all sorts of things, many of which are very uninformed opinions. Um, and I want to encourage people to ignore all that, because most of it is complete BS. These are people who haven't done it won't do it, will never do it, and don't want to see you successful in doing it because it just makes them look worse. So their whole mission in life is to discourage you. I don't really understand that psychology, but obviously it exists. So you do have to be pretty darn focused. You have to have very clear goals. In my case, being later in life, I knew that I wanted to go without an income for the shortest period of time possible. And so that's why I was in such a hurry to get through all of my training, because now, as a flight instructor, of course, I'm able to earn what turns out to be a pretty darn healthy income, because the life of an independent flight instructor, especially if you happen to have a pretty popular YouTube channel, it's pretty good.
Yeah, you brought up a number of great things there. I live and have done most of my flying in Central Florida, but I did spend some time up in the Northeast working at a Part 61 flight school, and I just loved it. I met my mentor there who really made me better, but we had a single north-south runway. And in the winter, as you
Mhm.
say, sometimes we'd get a weather system with just a howling wind out of the west for days. And it's beyond the crosswind component of the airplane. It's a narrow runway, you just can't fly, or you'd get snow or an ice storm. I like Florida for that, but of course we have August, which nobody enjoys. But you mentioned goals, and you've been very upfront about your aeronautical goals. What's your ultimate goal with the YouTube channel and the website? Will you continue that after you get to the airline, or is there a chance you'll change your path and stay in GA as a flight instructor? What have you I guess what I'm asking is, has your perspective on what you're going to ultimately do changed as you've gone down the road, or has it just intensified and you say, yeah, that path is good. That's where I'm going?
My primary path is still looking very, very promising. And I think the probability is high that my original goal will be the outcome. I say high as opposed to 100% because of some opportunities, thanks to my content on YouTube, that have come my way to be involved in some things that I'm not ready to discuss publicly
Mhm.
yet, that could end up being more lucrative, that would clearly involve flying. It's absolutely in aviation. Would involve my still getting plenty of time in the cockpit, but potentially being in an ownership position as opposed to being just an airline employee, and potentially having a greater earnings potential and the ability to grow an asset, which is what I've spent my entire life doing with
Mhm.
businesses. But I don't have all of the information about that opportunity yet. I'm actually in negotiations with some people to know how likely that is, how feasible it will be, and I would expect that that will take anywhere from the next 6 to 12 months for me to really sort of figure that out. About the same amount of time as it's going to take me to get to the 1,500 hours that I would need to go and join what will most likely be SkyWest, because I'm really fond of that airline and I like their program, and I'm in the pilot cadet program already. So the needle is still tilted more towards airline pilot, but I am an opportunist, of course. And as new information comes my way and new opportunities come my way, it behooves me to ensure that I do the due diligence that's required to make the best decision for my
That
future.
part fascinates me. I have to tell you, because like maybe like you, when I started in this, I thought I was going to be an airline pilot because frankly, I thought that's how you get paid as a pilot. I didn't think there was anything else. And along the journey, I learned there's a lot. And having an entrepreneurial bent myself, I just found the GA really worked for me. I enjoyed the lifestyle. I got to try all sorts of things. And as you say, opportunities pop up that were unforeseen. And it may or may not become your career path, but aviation is so much more diverse, in my opinion, than most people know when they get into it and realize all the opportunity that's there. I've never met anybody who said, yeah, my life was going great till I learned to fly. And they always say, no, I should have done this 10 years ago. I should have done this 20 years ago. This is great. And you're actually living proof of that. So thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah, and my experience now is paralleling the first one of the very first videos I recorded on YouTube years ago, and it's not on the Fly with Trent channel, it's on my other channel, and it was called the best or the green dot theory, I think was the name of the video, and it racked up over 4 million
Wow.
views. And really all it was me saying, when you decide to to pursue a goal, let's say selling green dots, and then you get into it and you're in the now you're rowing your boat, trying to sell your green dots, which is your first vision of what the thing is that you think you're going to do. Well, somewhere along the way, as you're struggling, undoubtedly, because you struggle in the beginning in business, you'll find that maybe purple triangles sell better, but you wouldn't have ever found the purple triangle if you didn't pursue the green dot to begin with. And so then you sort of scrap green dots and you go out and you start selling purple triangles, and you're making a lot more progress. It's easier, you're making more money. And then maybe you discover, like blue diamonds, and then blue diamonds sell like hotcakes, and so you forget the triangles and now you're onto the diamonds. The whole point of this metaphorical story is that the outcome is unknowable until you are in the journey. And this is the thing that the armchair quarterbacks and the people that only talk never discover, because they never actually begin the journey. They just talk
Mhm.
about the journey. You have to be in it, to have these opportunities, and you have to be curious. Of course, you can't just go in it with tunnel vision. You have to be in it and you have to be curious, and then you'll be amazed at how many things can come your way that you never would have considered in the beginning, and you might like some of those things better than your original vision. And that's why I'm a huge fan of this phrase. And if someone told me this years ago, I don't even remember who it was, and they said that the best way to succeed in business, or in this case aviation, is to be in aviation.
Yeah. I just sat down with a kid the other day he's trying to get involved. He wants to be a private pilot, but he wants to work in maintenance for a living. He was just beside himself knowing where to start. And he was way overthinking it. It was, analysis paralysis. And I'm like,
Yeah.
go get a job at the airport. Get any job at the airport. Doesn't matter what you do. You're starting the process.
Yep.
You're networking with the people you need to meet, and you'll refine your plan through that process. But working at the 7-Eleven or McDonald's or whatever is getting you no closer to that goal. Just as you say, go do the thing you want to do, and you'll learn how to do it better and more effectively, and more opportunities will pop up.
Or maybe even more to the point, be near the people you need to be near to put yourself in the path of opportunity. So to highlight what you just said, go get a job at the airport. Go get a job at the FBO. If you don't have the money for flight school yet, but you really want to be a pilot, you need to go work at the FBO. You need to tell everybody, you need to be the best employee they've ever seen. You need to tell everybody there that your dream is to become a pilot. And I promise you, unless you're a complete, abrasive personality moron, you're going to get an opportunity some way, somehow. Might not be in the first week, might be in year 2, but isn't that better than working at McDonald's or doing some job that isn't moving you closer to the people and the industry that you want to be a part of? In my books, it
Trent,
sure
I
is.
absolutely love your attitude. I can't thank you enough for coming here and talking to me today. Folks, you got to go check out flywithtrent.com or Fly with Trent on YouTube channel. There's so much there for the aspiring flight student, for the new CFI, for the entrepreneurial minded person that says, I think I might want to do that, but I don't know anything about it. Trent does a great job of laying it out for you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Trent.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having, and thanks everybody for listening.